Hello and welcome to the 2022 International Booker Prize Virtual Award Ceremony. I'm Nikki Bedi, BBC presenter and broadcaster, and I'll be your host for the evening as we celebrate world-class translated fiction with viewers from around the globe. We'd love to hear from you, so please do leave your comments in the box on your screen and share the love with your fellow book lovers. Shortly, we'll be hearing from Frank Wynne, chair of this year's judges, who's live here at One Marylebone in London this evening. Frank will be announcing the winning author and translator, or translators, who will be splitting the £50,000 prize money tonight. But first, let's revisit the wonderful shortlist, all of whom will be receiving £2,500 for making it to this point. For those who need a recap of the 6 shortlisted books, they are Cursed Bunny, written by Bora Chung and translated from Korean into English by Anton Her, published by Honford Star. A New Name, Septology 6-7, written by Jon Fosse and translated from Norwegian by Damien Searles, published by Fitzcarraldo Editions. Heaven by Miko Kawakami, translated from Japanese by Sam Bett and David Boyd, published by Pan Macmillan Picador. Elena Knows by Argentinian author Claudia Pinheiro, translated from Spanish by Francis Riddle, published by Charco Press. Tomb of Sand, the first Hindi book to be shortlisted for the Booker, written by Gitanjali Shree and translated by Daisy Rockwell, published by Tilted Axis Press. And The Books of Jacob, by 2018 International Booker Prize winners Olga Tokarczuk and translator Jennifer Croft. Olga also won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2018 for her book Flights, which was also translated from Polish into English. Also published by Fitzcarraldo Editions. That's enough from me. Let's hear from the authors and translators themselves, along with some very special readings performed by actors who bring the books to life. Here's Bora Chung and Anton Her with a reading from Cursed Bunny, performed by Kai Alexander. This book is a genre-defying collection of short stories which blur the lines between magical realism, horror, and science fiction.
They are not exactly science fiction. They can be categorized somewhere between horror and speculative fiction. There's only one real sci-fi story. Most of them are like fairy tale, but with a little bit of modern Korean twist. I would like to think of it that way.
When I first read Bora's text, I think my eyes basically widened and turned all glittery because I was convinced that, oh, this is something that I want to translate. I was ready to pounce on the book. Kind of like how I imagine a tiger's eyes would be when they see an actual bunny in the wild. They're like, oh, okay, that's going to be something that I'm going to go after. Because her sentences were just so beautiful and her stories were just so fantastic, I just couldn't wait to get my hands on them.
She was about to flush the toilet. Mother, she looked back. There was a head popping out of the toilet calling for her. Mother. The woman looked at it for a moment. Then, she flushed the toilet. The head disappeared in a rush of water. She left the bathroom. A few days later, she met the head again in the bathroom. Mother! The woman reached to flush the toilet again. The head sputtered, No, just a minute. The woman stayed her hand and looked down at the head in the toilet. It was probably more accurate to refer to it as a thing that vaguely looked like a head than an actual head. It was about 2/3 the size of an adult's head and resembled a lump of carelessly slapped together yellow and grey clay with a few scattered clumps of wet hair. What in bloody hell are you? The woman demanded.
Now we'll hear from author Jon Fosse and translator Damien Searles about a new name, Septology 6 to 7, a transcendent exploration of the human condition and a radically other reading experience, incantatory, hypnotic and utterly unique. Read to you by Luke Thallon.
The writing itself is that which inspires me. I don't get inspired by this or that outside writing. When I'm writing, I concentrate completely, more or less, on what I'm working on. One page takes the next in a flow. If I get into that kind of flow, it writes itself, more or less.
It really is a very hard book to summarize because it's all done in the language of the writing. It's his longest work, and I think the longer the better for him, because his writing always builds in these sort of waves of moving back and forth and kind of touching on different things and connecting them to other things, only builds over the course of whatever his writing is, whether it's a story or a novella or a novel, or in this case, a triple, septuple novel.
And I see myself standing there, looking at the two lines that cross in the middle, one brown and one purple, and I see that I've painted the lines slowly with a lot of thick oil paint, and the paint has run. And where the brown and purple lines cross, the colours have blended beautifully. And I think that I can't look at this picture anymore. It's been sitting on the easel for a long time now, a couple of weeks maybe, so now I have to either paint over it in white or else put it up in the attic, in the crates where I keep the pictures I don't want to sell. But I've already thought that thought day after day, I think. And then I take hold of the stretcher and let go of it again. And I realise that I, who have spent my whole life painting, oil paint on canvas, yes, ever since I was a boy, I don't want to paint anymore. Ever. All the pleasure I used to take in painting is gone.
Over to author Miko Kawakami and Sam Bett, who translated this book alongside David Boyd. Told through the eyes of a 14-year-old boy subjected to relentless bullying, this is a haunting novel of the threat of violence that can stalk our teenage years. The reading from Heaven is performed by Aidan Cheng.
ヘブンには、すごく追い詰められた過酷な状況を生きる14歳の男の子と女の子が出てきます。で、その非常に限界的な状況を強いられた時に、何が救いになって、何が混乱して、何が分からなくなっていくか、そういったことをしっかり書きたいなと思って書いた小説です。
Finding that headspace of being that age and not allowing, I don't know, the things that maybe I've learned or David has learned, or even the things that Miyako has learned, to overly, I'd say, affect the voice, because we did want to retain that pre-adult kind of voice that is really up against the kind of edge of adulthood, but not quite yet pushed into it.
One day, toward the end of April, between classes, I unzipped my pencil case and found a folded triangle of paper between the pencils. I unfolded it to see what was inside. We should be friends. That's all it said. Thin letters that looked like little fish bones, written in mechanical pencil. I quickly folded it up and slid it back into my pencil case. Taking a breath, I paused a second before looking around the room as casually as possible. Same group of classmates joking around and howling, the usual break between classes. I tried to calm myself down by repeatedly straightening my textbooks and notebooks. Then I sharpened a pencil, taking my time. Before long, the bell rang for third period. Chair legs screeched across the floor. The teacher walked into the room, and class began.
Not long to go now before we'll be joining the ceremony to find out the winners. Before then, here's Claudia Pinheiro with translator Francis Riddle talking about Elena Knows, a unique story that interweaves crime fiction with intimate tales of morality and the search for individual freedom. Actor Helen Schlesinger performs the reading.
Cuando escribí la novela, era bastante disruptivo hablar del aborto en la Argentina y en los términos en que habla la novela, y sobre todo de esta posibilidad de una mujer de decir no quiero tener un hijo, no quiero ser madre, quiero tener otro tipo de vida. Eso no era tan común, o no era común. Si bien por supuesto que había literatura al respecto, no era un tema que se hablara.
Elena Knows is about a woman named Elena who has advanced Parkinson's disease and whose daughter was found hanging from the church bell tower. It's an open and shut case of suicide as far as everyone is concerned, but Elena knows that's not possible. Claudia's writing is impeccable, so pretty much everything was perfectly clear and it didn't have to bother her with a single question. But the biggest challenge probably was just living through a day in the life of Elena, over and over, translating it. You have to read it several times, and it's kind of hard to go through all those details of her grief and her suffering so many times.
Rita was found hanging from the church belfry, dead, on a rainy afternoon. That, the rain, Elena knows, is an important detail. Even though everyone says it was suicide. Friend or not, everyone says so. But as much as they try to convince her, or remain silent, no one can refute the fact that Rita never went near the church when it even threatened rain. She wouldn't be caught dead there, her mother would have said if anyone had asked her before. But she can't say that now, because there she was, that lifeless body that was no longer her daughter, hanging from the belfry one rainy day, although no one could explain how she'd got there. Rita had been afraid of lightning ever since she was a little girl, and she knew that the cross on top of the church attracted it. It's the town lightning rod her father had taught her, without knowing that this passing comment would keep her from going anywhere near the place in stormy weather.
Winners of the International Booker Prize have come from Korea, Israel, Poland, Oman, the Netherlands and France, to name a few countries in recent years. But Tomb of Sand is the very first book written in Hindi and translated into English to be shortlisted. We hear from Gitanjali Shree and translator Daisy Rockwell, along with Anjana Vasan, who will read from the book. This is an urgent yet engaging protest against the destructive impact of borders, whether between religions, countries or genders.
I think all languages have within them the possibility of crossing borders and reinventing words, borrowing words, and doing wordplay and being adventurous. English, as much as Hindi, surely. I mean, English is a large language, and just as we say about Hindi, there is no single one Hindi. There are so many Hindis. I think one says the same about English.
Tomb of Sand is a huge book, not just in its length, but in its scope. It's about families, it's about mothers and daughters. It's about the partition of India and Pakistan, and above all, it's about borders and walls and about language, about the Hindi language. Gitanjali Shree loves the Hindi language, and Tomb of Sand is kind of a love letter to the Hindi language.
A tale tells itself. It can be complete, but also incomplete, the way all tales are. This particular tale has a border and women who come and go as they please. Once you've got women in a border, a story can write itself. Even women on their own are enough. Women are stories in themselves, full of stirrings and whisperings that float on the wind, that bend with each blade of grass. The setting sun gathers fragments of tales and fashions them into glowing lanterns that hang suspended from clouds. These too will join our story. The story's path unfurls, not knowing where it will stop, tacking to the right and left, twisting and turning, allowing anything and everything to join in the narration. It will emerge from within a volcano, swelling silently as the past boils forth into the present, bringing steam, embers, and smoke.
And now, the Books of Jacob, written by Olga Tokarczuk and translated by Jennifer Croft, with a reading performed by Sean Phillips. This novel is a portrayal of Enlightenment Europe on the cusp of precipitous change, searching for certainty and longing for transcendence.
W związku z tym przez 2-3 lata podróżowałam śladami Jakuba Franka po całej Europie. Wszędzie starałam się zwracać uwagę na te rzeczy, które szczególną rolę mają w powieści. Te, które pozwalają powieści w jakiś sposób uprawdopodobnić te wszystkie wydarzenia, które są opisywane, a więc smaki, zapachy, rodzaj światła, te detale, które są związane z podstawową jakością naszego życia. I myślę, że to była jedna z najbardziej barwnych i godnych zapamiętania przygód w moim życiu.
The Books of Jacob is Olga's magnum opus. It is the 900-page saga of Jacob Frank and his followers. It's a kind of loving reconstruction of a world.
When Kosakoshka fell asleep, Agnieszka and Družbaka got to work on the bloodied clothing with its vast crimson patches, starting with her underwear, her petticoats and her skirt, finishing with her navy blue coat. How many such bloodstains does a woman see over the course of her lifetime, wonders Družbaka. There is a particular kind of science that exists on these sorts of estates, the science of coaxing out bloodstains. For centuries it has been taught to future wives and mothers. If a university for women ever came about, it would be the most important subject. Childbirth, menstruation, war, fights, pogroms, forays, raids, all of it sheds blood ever at the ready just beneath the skin. What to do with that internal substance that has the gall to make its way out? What kind of lye to wash it out? What vinegar to rinse it with? When the doctor leaves, both women, Družbaka and Agnieszka, sleep.
What a fantastic shortlist. Congratulations to all the authors and translators. I do not envy the judges who will by now have had to decide who the 2022 winners are. The judges this year included author and academic Merve Emre, writer and lawyer Petina Gappah, writer, comedian and TV, radio and podcast presenter Viv Groskop, and translator and author Jeremy Tiang. For the first time, the panel was chaired by a translator, Frank Wynne, who will now join live here at One Marylebone in London.
Let's face it, nobody here wants this to be a long speech, and if you could, you'd all press fast forward, the suspense would be over, the decision would be announced, and we could move on to the celebrations and the commiserations. Looking out, I can dimly see the heart, the beating heart of literature in Britain. It takes a figurative village to publish books in translation. The authors, the translators who champion them, the agents, publishers, editors, copy editors, and reviewers, all of whom share a common goal: to bring remarkable books to readers and readers to remarkable books. The International Booker Prize exists only because of such passion and tenacity, and I thank all of you. Agreeing to be a Booker judge is madness, so I offer my immense gratitude and a ticket to a rest cure spa to my fellow judges. If you could all stand, please. Merve Emre, Petina Gappah, Viv Groskop, and Jeremy Tiang. We've got 3 minutes, kids. Their enthusiasm, candour, insight, and unfailing good humour greatly enhance the joys of spending a year in the company of extraordinary writers and translators. On their behalf, I would like to thank the Booker Prize Foundation for this honour, Gabby Wood, the incomparable Fiametta Orocco, all at For Communications, especially Dottie, and Trude Spruit, for skillfully managing what in Ireland we refer to as minding mice at a crossroads. Fiction is the most intimate of all arts, the only one in which we can truly inhabit another mind. Literature can and should challenge our certainties, test our empathy, exhilarate and terrify, stimulate and unsettle. It has never been bounded by borders. For as long as writers have told stories, translators have brought them to the world. As José Saramago said, writers make national literature, translators make universal literature. Translators matter. This is something that bears repeating in the somewhat solipsistic Anglophone world. Without them, bookshelves would be laid waste, stripped not only of the Iliad, the Eddas, the Mahabharata, the Tale of Genji, but even the Arthurian cycle, the quintessential matter of Britain, since it's fashioned from a patchwork of translations from French, German, Breton, Cornish and Welsh. And don't even get me started on Shakespeare's plays. If, as Ezra Pound claimed, a great age of literature is perhaps always a great age of translations, we are living through a remarkable era. The 7 gifted translators on this shortlist have brought us works by 6 outstanding writers. Bora Chung's disturbing yet eloquently human stories are brought viscerally to life by the startling talent of Anton Hur. Jon Foss's numerous sinuous sentences slowly unfurl in Damien Searle's shimmering English. Mieko Kamakawi's intense claustrophobic novel is retold with harrowing humanity by Sam Bett and David Boyd. Claudia Pinheiro's poignant exploration of frailty and loneliness is conjured in Francis Riddle's powerful yet sparing translation. Gitanjali Shree's joyous cacophony is captured in the playful poetics of Daisy Rockwell, and Olga Tokarczuk's dazzling epic, with its delicate irony and motley characters, is reborn in Jennifer Croft's lithe, elegant translation. Deciding on a long list and then a short list from the 135 books the jury read this year was daunting. Choosing a single book from among them has been agonizing. The winner of the 2022 International Booker Prize is Tomb of Sand by Gitanjali Shree, translated by Daisy Rockwell, published by Tilted Axis Press.
Gitanjali, you need to come here now. You can kiss and hug later. Come. The hugging must stop and the award must be given. Gitanjali Shree. And will you both come and say a few words? Gitanjali, aiye. I'll hold that for you.
Yes, please.
I'll hold them both then, that's dangerous.
I'm not sure I heard right. I was told this is London and I should be prepared for everything. It might rain, it might snow, there might be clouds, there might be the sun, there might be the booker. Come prepared. So I did, but I think I'm not prepared still. I'm completely overwhelmed. But I do have a few words I wrote, just in case. So I'm going to read that out. This is a bolt from the blue, but what a nice one, and I'm still reeling. I never dreamt of the booker and never thought I could. What a huge recognition. I'm amazed, delighted, honored, and humbled. I want to start by thanking the Booker Foundation and the Booker jury for choosing this book. There is a melancholy satisfaction in the award going to it. Ret Samadhi, Tomb of Sand, is an elegy for the world we inhabit, a laughing elegy that retains hope in the face of impending doom. The Booker will surely take it to many more people than it would have reached otherwise. That should do the world no harm. Ever since the book got longlisted, much has been written about Hindi making it for the first time. It feels good to be the means of that happening, but it also obliges me to emphasize that behind me and this book lies a rich and flourishing literary tradition in Hindi and in other South Asian languages. World literature will be the richer for knowing some of the finest writers in these languages. The vocabulary of life will increase from such an interaction. I thank my Hindi publisher, Ashok Maheshwari, for bringing this book out. And equally, I want to thank my English publishers, at Tilted Access, Deborah, Kristen, and Hannah Sabah, for taking this forward. And where would any of us be without Daisy, who has given this book its English incarnation, making it accessible for all of you. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank my French translator, Annie Monteau, who was the first who read the book and decided that she would gift it to the world in French translation. My personal debts are many. To my 95-year-old mother, who is clapping for me in faraway India. And my husband, Sudhir, who's here with me, as always, though he could not travel physically to London. My little sister and my littler nephew, they're quite big, who are here to share this moment with me, and my family and friends sitting in several continents, but with me, and as happy as me at this moment. Finally, and most importantly, I wish to say very clearly that I know this is not about Booker on the wall, who's the best of us all. I know I'm in the midst of the best, many of them, sitting here and elsewhere. And it is only that the configuration of stars so turned that a light from it caught me in its glow, at this right moment. I'm lucky, honored, humbled. Thank you.
Thank you. I just jotted down some notes because I've been feeling very superstitious lately, and I felt like if I wrote a speech, I would jinx myself. So I'm going to mostly just give thanks. So my first thanks is to the Booker judges, and I can't even believe the feat of reading 135 books. It's beyond my comprehension, and I think all of us on social media those of us on social media have seen what that means by when we saw Merve's tweet of all the books with the spines hidden on her coffee table, which was made of glass. So it's just, that's the image in my mind when I think of what you had to do, and I'm so thankful that considering how many books you had to read, you chose to read our rather chunky text and allow it to rise to these heights. So thank you so much. I'd like to thank Tilted Axis people who have been with us all week, and our wonderful publisher, Kristen Alfaro, and then Saba Mahmood and Hannah Sandhu. But of course, the originator of this project was Deborah Smith, who was the first winner of this award. So Deborah was the one that decided, she'd read a translation of something else by Gitanjali, and she just had heard about this book, Reit Samadhi, and she wanted to find a translator for it. So like many successful Indian couples, we had a matchmaker, and that matchmaker was Arunava Singha, the prolific Bengali translator who absolutely deserves to be up here one day. And so Arunava, thank you. I'd like to also thank my wonderful agent, Kanishka Gupta, who is watching this right now. So, I'd like to thank my husband, Aaron, and my daughter, Serafina, for putting up with me as I worked through this project. To my parents-in-law and sister-in-law, because I am also like a good Indian bahu, and I brought my pura sasural leke aayi, and they have been very good luck for me. Then I'd like to also thank those who could not travel with me, my 90-year-old father, not as old as your mother, but still as enthusiastic, from his easy chair in Massachusetts. And to my 3 cats who would prefer not to get on a plane and fly. That is Jenny Linsky, Princess Leia, and Madame a Butterfly. And then I want to thank the people whose company we've been in for the last week, because it's just been such a wonderful experience. It's like belonging to a wonderful club. And I especially want to mention the shortlisted authors. As a painter, I have these images in my mind from each book, so I'm going to read them out. From Claudia Pinheiro, the nameplate and the bell tower. These are the images in my mind. Jan Fosse's crossing paint lines, the brown and the purple, and that little dog who I'm very attached to. Olga Ziente sleeping in a cave, Mieko's pencil case, and those paintings that they go to see in the museum, which to me sound like sort of Marc Chagall paintings. That's how I see them in my mind. And then last but not in any way least, Bora's head in the toilet, not Bora's head, but the head in the toilet, written about by Bora. And of course, the unforgivable cursed bunny, which our family all pronounces it that way, and apparently no one else does. So I love the cursed bunny. And then last but not least, my fellow translators who I've loved meeting and talking to. Anton, Francis, Damien, Sam, and David. It's been a marvelous club to join, and I hope that the club lives on after this week, because you're all very special to me.
Don't forget the check. Many, many congratulations to Daisy and to Gitanjali. And they will now be busy doing press interviews. I hope that you have all had a wonderful evening. Please enjoy the rest of it. Thank you so much and good night. Wow, what fantastic winners. Huge congratulations to them. And I'm looking forward to hearing what happens next for them. They will, of course, split the £50,000 prize money equally between them. And if you haven't read the winning book yet, please do pick up a copy at your local bookstore or online. And if you get the chance, I highly recommend you read all of the shortlist. You can see the 2022 International Booker Prize winners at the Hay Festival, so do visit the Hay website for more information and to book your places. And now, to end this evening, a very special recording from the Ukrainian Cultural Association in the UK, who performed to the audience at the ceremony. The Institute is raising funds to buy an ambulance for a children's hospital via Just Giving, so if you'd like to donate, please follow the link provided in the event details. You can also explore a wealth of extraordinary translated fiction in the new Booker Prizes library. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and once again, congratulations to tonight's wonderful winners. Good night.